Assalamu alaikum students. How are you all? Hope you all are safe and healthy staying in your home. Students, today we are going to start our unit 6. In that, an interesting topic, a lesson to all. Okay students, let's begin. Students, look at this picture. Discuss and answer the questions. You need to write down the answers for these questions. Okay students, first question we have, look at the surroundings in the two pictures. Right students? In a one picture there is a forest, and in another picture, second picture, we have road, people and garbage on the road. Right students? Next question we have, which is beautiful? According to you, which is beautiful students? You need to write down the answer. Next, third question we have, which one do you like and why? Okay students. Next, fourth question, which things attract you in nature? And fifth question you have, why do our surroundings become dirty? Why students? Why our surroundings are becoming dirty? Who is responsible for that? Write down at least 2 to 3 points for each question, students. Okay? Let's begin the text part of this lesson. Here we have, okay students, here we have some characters in the lesson. Some persons are there and some animals are there. Mayor of the town, milkman, newspaper boy, hawker, school bus driver, Dr. Swati, Mrs. Rupa, a housewife, Mr. Vamsi, a businessman, Mrs. Geeta, a housewife, Jansi and Kalyani, Mrs. Geeta's daughters, okay? They are school-going girls. And animals in this lesson we have rabbit, deer, squirrel, tiger, tortoise and birds. Okay students? Let's begin the lesson then. A city street early in the morning. Okay students? In the city, the street in the early morning, the street is littered with plastic bags, cartons and other garbage. Okay, how is the street students? The street is littered with plastic bags, cartons and other garbage. Means street में जो है सारे plastic bags, curtains and सारा कचरा फेंके हुए थे स्ट्रीट पे और वो सब कुछ फैला हुआ था. Enters Mr. Vamshi. Okay students, Mr. Vamshi entered, looking out into the distance. He is looking at the distance. Why? Means he is waiting for something. The newspaper hasn't been delivered today. Why? It's 9 o'clock. So Vamshi is waiting for a newspaper. Almost time to leave for my office. Mr. Vamshi is saying, he looked out into the distance and he is saying himself, the newspaper hasn't been delivered today. Why? It's 9 o'clock almost. Time to leave for my office. Almost time to leave for my office. Then Mrs. Rupa said, hello Mr. Vamshi. Then Mr. Vamshi replied, hi Mrs. Rupa. Have you received your newspaper today? Then Mrs. Rupa said, No Mr. Vamshi, the newspaper boy hasn't delivered the news, means haven't delivered the papers. Then Mr. Vamshi said, what about our milkman? For that, Mrs. Rupa replied, I made a call to him. He told me that he was coming on foot. Then Mr. Vamshi said, oh, look at our street. It's shocking. Why it is shocking, students? Because the street is completely messed. It's full of plastic bags, curtains and other garbage is spread on the street, right? Then Mrs. Rupa said, my word, what's this? Where did all this litter and garbage come from? What Mrs. Rupa is telling students? She is telling, "What's this? Where did all this litter and garbage come from?" In the meanwhile, enters Mrs. Geeta with her daughters. Suddenly, Kalyani falls and injures her foot. Gives out a cry of pain. What happens, students? When Mrs. Geeta enters with her two daughters, suddenly what happened? Kalyani falls and injured her foot. And she is crying. Kalyani says, "Ow! Ouch! My foot! It hurts!" Then Mrs. Geeta said, "Oh, Kalyani! Oh no! Her foot is bleeding so much! Somebody help, please!" Then Mrs. Rupa, she said, "Jhansi, go and request Dr. Swati to come quickly. Your sister has cut herself on a broken glass bottle." Where did that glass bottle came from, students? Where did that bottle come from? In that garbage. Right? In the street. Right, students? Let's see. Then Mrs. Geeta, "Unbelievable. Where has all this rubbish come from?" Then Dr. Swati enters with Jhansi. She has a doctor's kit. Then Dr. Swati said, "Let me see the wound." Then Mr. Vamsi said, "Doctor, shall I go and bring a piece of ice to stop the bleeding?" Then Dr. Swati said, "Good. Applies ice on the wound. It's a deep cut. I'll dress the wound and she will be fine." Okay, students? What Dr. Swati did? She applies ice on the wound, and because of the cut is deep, so she dressed the wound. Then now Kalyani is fine. Right, students? Then okay, students, then Mrs. Geeta said, "Thank you, doctor. It's so kind of you to come at once. Have you seen the rubbish and litter on the road?" Then Dr. Swati said, "Oh, it's a mystery. All this garbage was not there yesterday. And now just look." Then entered newspaper boy, milkman, hawker, bus driver, etc. Mrs. Rupa said, "Look, the newspaper boy, the milkman, at last." "Why are you so late?" Then milkman said, "I had to come walking all the way." Then newspaper boy said, "I tripped on an old tire in the middle of the road and sprained my foot." Okay, students? Then bus driver said, "Mrs. Geeta, I'm sorry, I can't drive the school bus today. On every road and street there is nothing but litter." Then Mrs. Geeta said, "Our children are not safe with all these dangerous broken objects around." Okay, students? Because of this litter on the street, bus driver is not at all ready to drive the school bus today. Because of that litter. And even the newspaper boy also tripped on an old tire. Right? Because of that, he sprained his foot. Right, students? So, what Mrs. Geeta is telling? She is telling that our children are not safe with all these dangerous broken objects around. Then the hawker said, "No one is safe. Let's request the mayor to come and see for himself." Okay, students? Then the hawker said, "No one is safe. Let's request the mayor to come and see for himself. Let him see what is there in the street." Then Mr. Vamsi said, "I'll fetch him." Means, I'll search for him. and I'll bring him to the street. Let him see what happened in the street. Why this litter, why this garbage is spread on the road, in the street. By saying this, Vamshi exit from there. Okay, students, what do you think? Is it safe, students, if the garbage and the litter is spread on the street or on the road? Is it safe for the people who is walking? Do you think that? Did Mr. Vamshi did he brought Mayor along with him to see the street? What Mayor did? Let us know that in the next session. Students, till then, thank you and Allah Hafiz.